Yahoo, Prof here, and I have been trying to make this video for a wee bit. This product came in a bit earlier than expected on Saturday. It is now Tuesday. Yeah, we're unboxing sandpaper. No, actually, to adjust refills, sometimes the easiest way is just to give them a little let's put that away real quick here. This is a interesting right angle USB-C, not what the video is for, but it's here. See, it's right angle. They call it center angle because it's from the center, I guess. I don't know. It keeps it vertical thinner. You normally stick out like that far, if not farther, when you put it this way. But yeah, actually, Cable Creation, bought stuff from them before. So they're a random Amazon brand, but they were half decent, generally speaking. That was King Arthur you guys just saw. This, what we'll be opening. And this, it opened up. And we better not have lost. Gosh darn it. I was going to say, is this, and here was going to be a hint. But, it cracked open in my bag. And hopefully I didn't lose the USB dongle. Nope, didn't lose it. It's been an interesting week. We've had our annual thing for work. Had a 12-hour day because of that. That was long. I had 2 hours of sleep. Then last week, actually, my function key on my work happy action keyboard, which is a hybrid Type S, because I thought I'd be nice to the people at work and get the silent one, even though I actually prefer typing on the non-silent. It's got more thockiness, a little bit more travel. Yeah, the function key is broken. Only slightly. It's like still usable, but so I actually brought my non-silent one to work. There you go. That's what that might give you guys a bit of a hint as to what's in this. Oh, I shouldn't be putting this back. I'm gonna leave it out. And I'm running out of USBs. Can I label these? No. Alright. Is this plugged in? It is. Huh. So, you might get a hint as to what this is. Nope. There you are. You got our Tuck HD, and we're going to call it Hunter Orange. That easily cut through it, but apparently didn't cut through it far enough. There we go. that's what we've got. Some of you may know the box shape. E1 from VAXEE. Why then is there an EC2 from Zoe? Well, the CEO of VAXEE designed the EC, and more specifically, the EC2 shape and related stuff. Not this one though. This is the CW. That's obviously put out by Zoe, put out after VAXEE was bought out by, down here, BenQ. This one just says Zoe. Some of the newer mice by Zoe actually say BenQ on them instead. So what this is supposed to be is a improvement on the EC2. The Outset, from my understanding, is no more, as they're not working with him anymore. So, and this is, they announced a while back that they were working on a new right-hand ergo shape. It is new to VAXEE, obviously. You might be able to tell by the sticker, red, or the R, red. Well, I missed the product launch because we had a very busy week. Very busy when that came out. Apparently came out on a Friday. I forget what I was chasing at work. Like something came up. And you know, it's just a mouse. Yeah, come on. E1. Come on. Chop. Chop. So everything with the black is sold out already. And as I've said before, I personally do not like the non-colored variants of VAXEE's mice, like the white and black. I liked them previously when they were like, I don't know, I would have taken the white as it was usually the... Why are we choppy? We should be 30 FPS. Oh, we're in night sight. We're in video night sight. That's got to be why we're choppy. Apologies. I did just update my Pixel 9 Pro to Android 15, and supposedly the camera app got updated, so that you used to have to send it out for night sight on video. It was like the video boost thing. If you want to do 8K, you have to do it too. Some of that might be coming to AI processing on the phone. I don't know if that's what's happening. Hey, Paisley. I was wondering. That is Paisley. That is annoying. Oh, and she's jumping on my shoulders. Okay. You gonna sit there? Okay. You can be here while I unbox this mouse. Yeah, I know it's 2 o'clock. And not 2 o'clock in the afternoon, guys. 2 o'clock in the morning. Because when Paisley, you're gonna fall off if you do this. You're gonna fall off. Go back over here. Go back over here. Paisley, you're literally sharpening your claws on my back. Kitten. Let's grab the knife again. I wanted the blue one, but I didn't buy it till I think the following Monday. Because I'm a dum-dum. Because I didn't realize it was released. And how I realized this guy was released was when they announced their new mouse pad, or people were showing off their new mouse pad, or marketing or something. And I noticed they had a blue mouse. And I'm like, ooh, what's the blue mouse? And I'm like, and people said something. I'm like, what? E1? Yeah, out of the loop. Sometimes work does that for me, where it's like there's shit you got to get done. And you have to do it. So you do. Here, Paisley. No. I know you want to be by me, so sit down right here. Sit in my lap like a good kitten. Yeah. It's being a good kitten. I thought she was going to go up on my shoulders and stay there. Like a good kitten. Yeah. You used to stay up there all the time, but then you start claiming my back. Why is that? So, E1, think EC2 shape, except with the guts of the XES. And possibly even a little bit more updated than this even, I think, firmware-wise. Because they should have 0 millisecond debounce. And no, that doesn't mean no debounce. Just to clarify, it does not... Hey, you really need these little... I see these claws, kitten. I see them. Yeah, you put a run in my pants. So 60 to 61 grams. Probably 61 because I got the colored one. Kind of a mash between the AX, the Outset AX, and the EC2. Oddly, the diagrams on the website do not talk about the 0 millisecond debounce. I believe it's definitely a thing. I might just be cracked out, guys. You never know. It doesn't look like the XES has been updated. It should be able to be updated to the same firmware as this. Or some of those functions may already exist in the XES that maybe those are already in there. I don't think the 0 millisecond debounce was, though, because they did highlight it. Because that's the new hot shit. Is no debounce. You don't want debounce. That's added input latency. Yeah, it also makes it so your switches don't like fucking bounce. That's why you need debounce. And like the whole thing where people will like slam click or like this and it clicks. That can help with that too. Near 0 millisecond debounce should mean it still debounces. Unlike Roccat's no debounce, which means now you want that for drag clicking. That's how certain drag clicking mice are really good, is because you're actually intentionally bouncing the switch when you do that effectively. And I know some in the comments are like, no, that doesn't have blah, 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 blah. I also still don't see the point of drag clicking. Like macro. There you go. Oh, that's not acceptable in a tournament. Right. Are there battle Minecraft tournaments? Am I crazy? Maybe there are. I'm out of the loop. I'm old. But yes, got the red one. Basically because it came out on a Friday. I didn't see that it existed till Monday. By the time that had happened, all the comments on Twitter, YouTube were just like blue, blue, blue. Kind of like when the original Orange XE Wired came out, and they're like, orange, 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 and it was sold out. So, and they went from having 4 colors, I believe, pink, blue, yellow, orange, right, and white and black, to they wanted new colors, and at least initially, they're only going to do a low amount of colors, because otherwise what happens, and I would agree with this statement, like certain colors become more popular than others, and they won't sell, basically. So in here is, it looks like the cable, a nice rubber VAXEE cable. It does have the bump up. I'm surprised it's needing night sight for this. I have a lot of lights on in here, but you never know. I'm just not going to mess with it. The one thing I do not like, and I think I mentioned this, that they had previously that was good, is these cable ties are not retaining, meaning if I unhook these right now, they just go flinging across the room. The old ones used to loop onto the cable, and then you could snap them on. Much better. Much better. Or if you just made this piece longer, this rubber piece, what you can do is loop it once around and then loop it around again and snap both of them onto this piece if it's tall enough. Then you don't lose the rubber bits, and Like, because effectively, once you take these off once and you start using this, they're never going back on. That's what I'm getting at. That's how Razer is doing it. That's one thing where VAXEE has gotten worse. They still put the little notch in to make the cable go up and off the mouse pad, even though it's the rubber mouse cable that they basically found, and I will concur with this. Anybody with this kind of a mouse wireless is not... I feel like the ability to use it as a wired mouse is very, 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 very low on their totem pole of, you know, like ways and hows and how they're going to use it, basically. Right? Yeah, the blue... This red is actually a really, really nice red. I still think I would have liked the blue better. If you look at some of like their promotional picture for their new mouse pad, it's like a navy blue. This thing they just called red. I don't know if it's coming through on camera, but it is a very red. For those that have Nipex, there you go for comparison. It is a more red than Nipex red. Like, whew, it is red. So they also changed, they added the spot here for the LED, which is nice. It has the same power on and, oh no it doesn't. I was going to say it has the same power on and button controls as the XES. But it doesn't. Slidey on switch, holdy clicky on switch. I swear some of the XES controls were controlled by holding buttons and flipping that on. So I wonder how that's going to work with a clicky switch. Might just be a little bit different. The other thing I'm noticing from this end, and you're like, why are you comparing literally like a Ambi small mouse to a right-handed ergo mouse? Because the guts of this is the previous mouse they released. You know, like and these guts will eventually, these guts are in there effectively updated a little bit. Kind of like when they came out with the NP01S wireless and the guts got updated, even though it's just like a newer version of the XE on the guts wise, even though it's a completely different size shape mouse. So the other thing I would note is that if you look at the base here, where it clicks in for the USB-C on here, it's split, right? So it's split due to the bottom and the top, right? If you look at the E1 here, the bottom of the plastic from the bottom, I was gonna say goes up and over. It actually doesn't. But they do have like an outer thing around it, it looks like the bottom plastic goes up and over. That is not a separate mold. That is like an insert piece that looks to be molded to the USB port. Yeah, so that sort of thing could be added to like newer XESs, I bet. Because it's just a piece. It just kind of looks cleaner. Probably easier for plugging the cable a little bit because you're not trying to match two pieces stuck together. They did adopt, which I do like seeing, the split buttons. That was one advancement that the XES got over... Here's an XE. And all previous to their mice didn't have split buttons. As somebody uses side buttons all day, every day, it's a nice improvement to see. It's easier then to, you know, like feel the, like which button you're clicking and not accidentally clicking the same one. Looks like they went back to the same scroll wheel style of rubber, at least, that the XE had. I'm sure it was on other models of VAXEE mice. They tried this sort of ribbed nipple dimple one here for more grip. I actually like it. Turns out it's very close to Razer's. catches cat fur apparently very, very well. So there's razors. You can see that. So that's razor style, and I checked. I have a bunch of razor mice like that. So they're kind of going with that style, and I actually do think it grips better. But apparently they got a lot of complaints about that style switching from like this guy and some of the other ones that are closer to this. Some of them are just bars across. But yeah, they went to this to try a new style, and people, at least the comments I saw, people didn't like how it looked. We've been over this in another video. It was either the for comparison, we got the DEX. It was either in the DEX video or in the Death Adder Hyperspeed video. And I was commenting about how, I think it was Death Adder Hyperspeed probably, because I don't know that the E1 was out by the time I made the DEX video. And somewhere around here I have my Death Adder. Here's our dongle Daikazoku. Okay, it's gonna have the gold on it. Yep. So it's got gold, and kind of the reason why that is, at least from my understanding, I don't know if they've confirmed it or not, is because the replacement ones, like the ones that I upgraded my XE with, are silver. Right? So that way you can have two separate dongles. Once they add the ability back to have two separate dongles, you can know which, like they're labeled. I recently had to do that with my Sony headset because I got two dongles for it, and what I ended up doing was I just used whiteout and put one dot on one, two dots on the other one. So it's I would call this pretty damn obvious, you know, because there's literally no other way to tell which one's the main one and which one's the second one. Paisley, must you, Paisley Marie? She's like licking adhesive on a packing envelope from UPS. Sure, cat. Sure. XESO. We gotta label this. E1 R. Easy. So yeah, these I don't need to be super obvious, so I just label them in black, the zebra marker on the underside there. The Fanatic ones, a little bit more obvious, because the only real free open space is right on the front there. Like, why do you need to mark that one? Well, because the Maya 8K one, exactly the same basically. Here. Is orange rectangle, just an orange Lamzu dongle. Same thing here. I would write with whiteout, but unless you're gonna write it like right on top over that, nah. And in halfway decent lighting, you can read the oil permanent marker on there, kind of satin black. So now that we've got this unboxed, if you guys are wondering, despite these mice being quite expensive, and I'm not complaining at all, let's just say, you know, a good mouse used to be pushing $100. Good wireless mouse They could start getting up to 90, 99 pretty quick, right? This is like 130, I think. I just had it up. Let's hit back on the old mouse here. 140. Sorry, I think one of the original ones of these is 130. 140 now. Right. And apparently the place where they really changed it was, and yes, I know, putting them this way, the shapes. Paisley found a bug, and she's going to knock out my blinds to get it. I believe somebody said this uses the same feet as the MP01. I got it. Alright, I had to get the bug for Paisley because it was out of her reach and she was about to tear down my blinds. What they did is they rounded the ass off of the E2. So what they said is that with the longer butt here that stuck more into the hand, watch their video on it, they're like, they shortened it to make it easier to move around in the hand, and I would agree. The rounded ass, you got a little bit of more movement, and like I can already tell you, it doesn't catch nearly as hard. So, and I do like a little bit of mouse with a little bit of butt, and it should upturn a little bit. So what I will say is, if you look at the E1, it's a little bit thicker on the front and then turns up towards the back. So there's the XE versus the E1. To me, the E1 looks a little bit thicker. But what they changed is they made the butt a little shorter. This is closer, looks closer to me to the NP01, not the S, not the small, but the normal NP01. Uses the same feet, and when you hold it up like this, front of mouse, like of the bottom of the mouse to front of the bottom of the mouse, you can see it's just a hair shorter, and you can just tell by the shape of the butt that it's wider and it ends sooner. Right. The other thing would be is if you look at the EC2, it doesn't turn up at all. So what turning up does, if you go back to the DEX video, here's the DEX. If you notice, it goes very slim in the front to rather tall in the back. It gets your palm off the mouse pad. See, look at that. Palm, like none of, even the base of my palm will be touching the mouse pad effectively, right? So it lifts, like the ass of the mouse lifts the base of your hand, sort of. Yeah, and looks wise, this to me and many people looked very much like none of those mice currently out, but this guy, like, it's orange. That means it's a Fanatic, which means it's actually a Lamzu Thorn, right? Visually, even from above, these two may seem fairly similar to you. In hand, they're substantially different. So if we line up the front here, the E1 is quite a bit longer than the Thorn, and this tapers down in the front and comes up in the back, but it doesn't come up in the back nearly as much as the E1 does. Yeah, and they show this as being a combination of the Outset, I want to say, on their website. Yeah, they compare it to the E1 and the AX. thinking in my head, this, especially with the feet, those look like NP01 feet, and I might be cracked on my brain. I do not have one here. To me, this looks more like an NP01. And feels in the hand like a even more ergo, like a even more right hand ergo NP01. When they say like the shapes are the same, now I could get an older EC2 out. This is just the one I was using because it's the wireless one. I don't know if it's because of the butt or what. The EC2, I was using it today at work, and I think it deals with some of the same stuff that the Hyperspeed Death Adder deals with. Where now the Hyperspeed Death Adder is worse, but what ends up, yeah, it's much worse. Not like just like bad, but what it's bad at is this side falling away, and what that means is that this part of your hand right here, I don't even know what you're gonna call it. I kind of grip with that. If you can see where pinchy's right there, the EC2 is much better. If you look under here, this part of the hand just cannot grip the mouse because it falls away so substantially. Right? Look at the EC2, it still falls away quite substantially, but there's more here. But there's this big seam because the EC2 is done on this older design where like the whole top of the mouse is the mouse click. It doesn't have the separated, separated mouse clicks. This was the style for the longest time. Not even just EC2, but like all gaming mice. Like this was thought of to be the better one. They went away from having your individual clicks like this, right? Yeah, I mean, I could go and get I really would rather not though. Let's look at wireless mice ones. Am I cracked out of my brain? Then I got the E1, NP01. No outset. Was the outset never done wirelessly? Wired mice. Did they already pull all the outsets? No, I got an outset, full mat. Yeah, no, I'm cracked. I was talking out of my butt. It's definitely an outset AX combined with. They're correct. Of course they'd be correct. They're the ones designing. I don't know. For some reason in my brain, I was thinking it looked or felt more like a NP01. But no, it's basically the front of an outset, right? I'm guessing the feet of an outset. I need to buy some. I should have. Oh, fuck! I forgot. I didn't buy new feet for my XE. This thing needs new feet, real bad. I just never bought some. NP01, NP01S, Outset AX. Yeah, so it's the same feet as all those. Yeah, the rear end, that's an up... What? That's an upside down outset. Did they make a wireless outset? I should know this, because I would own it. Yeah, they did. I'm just dumb. Cut all that out, I guess. So, for me, though, I do remember the outset. It's not like the Superlight DEX, Superlight Pro DEX, whatever. Definitely not my style. Lifts the back of the hand, like it does not touch the surface. the bump is way up here. You really gotta palm that ish, right? Definitely not my style. I actually did figure out like how I like to grip it now, because I normally when I grip back here as a palm grip, but you really gotta lock that sucker in and lock that ring finger in, right? This feels, I don't know. They say that this has the same slopes and dimensions as the EC2, but I mean, I guess it does. I don't know. For on an initial hand feel says the E1 feels better, and I think that mostly comes down to it's got a shorter ass and the butt is lifted up off the surface. Butt is lifted off the surface. I like that. The Thorn, to be truthful, between the E1 and the Thorn, I think the Thorn actually probably better fits my grip. It fills it a little bit more. But the E1 is definitely better than because the sides on the Hyperspeed, just like I'm feeling this only now with comparably sized mice, the sides on are like rounded out. They're like bowed out this way where you grip. Like it's like boop. Like they're dipped in this way, but they're boop this way. So it's like the wrong way in my opinion. Same thing on the side here. Instead of scooping in, it goes out. So it feels kind of slippy. The worst kind of ones that are like this way is like, in my opinion, would be HyperX, Pulsefire. Is it Haste? No, Pulsefire. Haste is an alright one. The original Pulsefire. Forgot what they called it, because that was when the mouse was called the Pulsefire, I think. Pulsefire FPS maybe. It's the original one. That was before they made the Pulsefire the line of mice. I don't know why you need to name a line of mice and then have like a sub name. You could just make that shape the name of the mouse and then have different versions like a regular brand. But yeah, whatever. Yeah, I do like this shape, the smaller version, better than the Pro version of the Death Adder V3 Hyperspeed. I think if you're somebody who likes an EC2, EC2, you will basically like an E1. It's a better version. I feel like here too, it flares out more. I might be wrong, but to me it feels that way. And that may be just because the ass isn't as long, you know. The other thing that VAXEE just gets better is there is technically seams for the body, right? But I sure as hell can't see them. Like, seriously. This is even better than the XES, I think. Every time they do this, it gets better. You can barely see a seam right there. Like I can't even see the one on this side, knowing where it should be. For example, if you look at my well-worn in XE, you can see a like a fairly prevalent seam there. A little bit less actually on this side. It's definitely there in certain parts though. So each time they're getting better at that kind of. And why does it matter that they visually hide it? It doesn't. What matters is that they hide it to the feel of the hand, in my opinion. And then Shmoo can't get in there as well. Like, the only reason to have a mouse top like this now is so you can take the whole top piece off, put some batteries in it or something. Normally that's done from the bottom end anyway nowadays. But, you know, if that... Here, for example, I don't do... Like, the 603 is fine, or this is fine, because you just go... Whoop, and there's your dongle and your battery. You know what I mean? And then also when they want to customize it, you just have to remake this piece instead of like the whole mouse. I don't mind that for like a lower grade mouse. you know, or to get the AA or AAA batteries, that sort of stuff. Like I said, 603 is one of my favorite mice for what it is. Finish on the E1, obviously better. I like VAXEE's finish a ton. Click, 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 click. Side buttons are probably better on EC2. Which you can always say because they're mushy compared to the Razor, but that was the Razor of that era. The like 2013 Chroma era, you know, pre-V2. Now, the Razor buttons are just little click switches, where they used to use, like back then, they used to use full-size main clicks, and they don't anymore. Now I'm used to the VAXEE side buttons. They're definitely hooked a bit more. They're a bit straighter on the XES. Part of the reason I like these guys is I have a big fat thumb, and you can see here where I'm gripping. I am nowhere near touching those. Like if I'm flat on the surface like this too, look at that. Like I am nowhere near. I could even grip up a bit more on this mouse, and my thumb isn't touching. Whereas on something like an XES, if I put it where I want, my thumb is actually touching, and I will actually get like I have callus. I don't know if I call it callus, but like skin that is worn from rubbing on a surface. Now, I sometimes actually put the bottom of my pinky and this part of my thumb onto the mouse pad to add or remove friction, right? Because I use mainly use a glass pad for gaming. People always say glass pads are super fast. They're slick, but I wouldn't say they're fast because they're so flat. There's a lot of surface area, so they're actually slower than a lot of people think. Like you can, with no pressure on the mouse, you can like glide it real easy. But like, if you get a fast cloth pad or a plastic, but plastic pad is way faster than any glass pad or metal pad, flat metal pad at least, like a non-coated metal pad, like an aluminum sheet or something. Because it's got the bumps on it, and the bumps actually reduce the amount of surface area it's touching, so it ends up being faster. Some of the fastest pads I've ever had are hard plastic multi-layer pads. Torque X10 from EVGA was made very similar to like the Steel Series, not SX, that's the metal one, SP, I think. And that's a triple layer plastic pad. Kind of like translucent top, graphic, so you know, so stuff to track, and then rubber mat on the bottom. There's like single layer. I don't know if you want to call it a single, like a dual or triple layer. There's like, I've been over this, like if you go way back when I've covered plastic pads, they've gone out of fashion. But those are slick. You can also get many cloth pads, especially, they're usually printed ones. They're ones that have a logo fully printed across the entire thing. A lot of your desk mats you get from creators are going to be like this. Or just cheap desk mats in general, and they're going to be fast as. A lot of Razor's cloth pads that aren't the Gigantus they're all speed pads. They're faster than a glass pad. People are like, oh, but hard pads wear out my mouse feet. Yep, and roads wear out your car tires. That's how I look at it. And hey, if you want it to be slower, wear down your feet like this is, and it substantially slows down the mouse. Some feet wear better or worse. I don't know about these pads, because they have the what is it, natural PTFE or whatever on the DEX, but like the original like G502 feet, that era of Logitech pads, they like melted. Here's another, like, I guess here's one reason why, like, Zoe with their EC2 CW and a lot of their EC2, because they have their, like, charging apparatus that you, like, got to dock this thing into, it splits up this front pad, which then puts a lot more pressure. So if you look at this pad, because of how I hold the mouse, it has much more wear on it compared to this pad. And both of these pads have a ridiculous more amount of wear than this back one. which actually is barely worn compared to these. You know, and then if you look at the like my XE, it is basically wearing evenly all the way, like from the center in, basically. That also is because the VAXEE feet are not flat. They're like rounded edged, like, so they're not perfectly flat. I've only used this since last Friday, so there's not a lot of wear on there, but you can see like it's already wearing more towards the middle. You can see that at all. Specifically the XE feet. Even the XE small feet are not that much better. I think if you look, it's like a little shiny. A lot more shine on the XE feet. These seem to be wearing better than these. These have much harder edges on them on the NP01 / Outset feet that are on this E1. So we'll see how those wear. They're also smaller. There's less surface area. I would not have minded if, and they probably just want to use the same feet and they can't use these feet. Or maybe it wouldn't have made sense to use these feet. I don't know how all that lines up. But I would have liked to see more foot. Like instead of these arc shapes, foot. You know, like this guy. More foot, more better. Okay. But like I said, this, despite being dimensionally not identical, but very, very similar to the EC2. They even talk about, they try to keep the same measurements in the important spots. The only kind of like big change is, and you can see it, it's pointier here, right? And I already showed you how it goes down lower. I don't even say it goes down lower. It just, they keep the consistent thickness across the bottom. I tend to do better, at least with palm mice, or even ergonomic ambidextrous mice, like ones I palm when I grip. Not necessarily ones that are designed to be palmed, but just like ones I grip with a palm grip. When the butt gets raised up like this. So it just lifts up a little bit, and that just kind of keeps this bit of your hand from going all the way flat. You get a lot of control when it's all the way flat like that, but I think it feels a little bit more nimble. If you look here too, it goes, this one does go from thinner to thicker, so the transition is bigger. This kind of goes from a little bit thicker than the XE to definitely like a nice big flare at the back. Still nothing compared to the DEX. This thing is a true fat palm mouse. But for those interested in the E1, I'll get you like a 360 look at that with all the other stuff lined up in the back. And yeah, so it seems to be very similar internals to XES, this little guy. It is updated, like I said, power button, not a power switch. So it is a bit interesting on how it changes things, because it used to be like, okay, hold scroll wheel and volume and this and switch it on, or something like that. You know, or hold this and that and switch it on, and you get the stuff. So I wonder how that works. Also, is this just a click? You know, like a click? No. It's going to be a hold. So that's interesting. There we go, we're on. I wonder what this LED does. Well, in the front, because the LED's on the bottom turned on. Or did it? Might be because this isn't plugged in. How do I get it to turn off? I also might need to charge it because the DPI is flashing red. It does look like this is different than the XES because there are the 2 dots here for the page down, which shows battery and stuff like that as well. I'll have to take a peek how it differs, but all of it's controlled by this button now, rather than if we go back to the XE, which is the classic 3 buttons, which used to be a classic thing on Zoe. DPI, polling rate, sometimes they'd have 3 across here. This is the wireless one, post VAXEE, of people being involved. So like they very much just kind of continued along the way that they wanted to. Like I said, what is it about you guys though that like you're worried about the scroll wheel looks ugly or something, or like looks is the terms I saw too. Looks, not feels, not yeah. And like I said, Razer literally uses that same design. I mean, not exactly, but effectively very similar design. Middle click feels pretty good. That's probably the same as the XE, whatever click that is. If I recall, in the XE they use not a full size click like the main clicks, but that same style but smaller. Whereas like something like this Hyperspeed from Razer uses like one of the little button switches, which I'm probably going to break and or wear out. You know, that's just what's going to happen. I use middle click for reload. And like I said, I actually, when gaming, use my side buttons and my middle click and my scroll. I actually use them. So I break them, because a lot of these companies are like, oh, they make the main clicks like, oh, a billion clicks. They don't stress test the rest of the stuff, and then I snap something off or break something. I do like the side clicks that stick out a bit more. You know, like here they're not near flush, but they're pretty flush. I want to say the Razer Death Adder 2013. No, not 2013. The 3500 was like this, and then later on they went to ones that stuck out a little bit further. Oh God, get a Death Adder 2013. That thing still feels bang on. Even the Elite, I think, was what came next, and maybe in Chroma. I don't know. The Chroma, they're still feeling pretty good. Not as good, in my opinion. Hard to compete though. If you guys are wondering, the EC2, why is it important? Like you're like, oh, you like ergonomic ambi mice. Why are you looking at the E1? What pulled me away from the Death Adder was the EC2. And even more importantly, what pulled me onto mice where you only have 5 buttons, as in, because realistically, I always use Death Adder as my secondary, like LAN parties, you know, and you need a mouse to like bring someplace, or what's the mouse you grab when you just need a mouse that works? Death Adder, when it was gaming mouse. But everything else, like I'd like what brought me back into mice from trackballs, G700, then I went straight to G700. I had 4 of them at one point, 1 on each PC. That's how much I liked it. Those have a bunch of buttons to program, and I freaking used them. Then we went to the 502, 402, 602. Then after the 602, I broke multiple middle clicks on multiple 602s, if I recall correctly. And then I was like, hey, I keep using the Death Adder, and I do really good at LAN parties and tournaments and stuff. Why don't I just use it? So I did for quite a while. But then EC2A, picked one of those up, and I was like, wow, for breath of fresh air. This mouse just works. It's not like a lot of these other mice, not just Razer, but a lot of these other mice at the time, that like they were getting away from not only you having to use software, but no onboard profiles. None. You couldn't save your settings to the mouse. Now it's become useless for even a LAN party, basically. And I was like, hey, this thing, it's amazingly comfortable. It's in the same sort of class for me, you know, class of mice, and it just works. I think what turned me off previously on Zoe, and I did test some from Monoprice, if you guys know me from that long ago. So like they had the EC, I still have my Miko, but the DPIs back then, because Zoe would play around with the sensor of the lens, were jacked up and non-standard, and they didn't fit the DPIs I used, because they were like all wacky. So that's why until like the EC2A, I really didn't adopt any Zoe mice besides testing them. Like I didn't own them myself. I was just sent them for review or tried them at like when other people had them at LAN parties or events, tournaments, that sort of stuff. A little bit of pre-travel. Okay. Yeah, so a little bit of pre-travel there. A little bit of post-travel. And this isn't post-travel that you have to go way out on the end. Because some people are like, oh, there's post-travel, and they're like prying in here. I'm doing this from like where the switch is or where I would click. And unless I'm using the DEX where I have to click like way off the mouse because of the grip. Which then they're like, people are like, oh, you say there's no pre-travel on the DEX, but then you show it here when you're way out here. There is, and there is. But if you go back and click where the switch is more, I guess there's a tiny bit of pre-travel. But post-travel on a DEX is like, click, and that's basically nothing. Click. I think that might be part of Logitech's issues, because I saw the same thing on the original Super Light. So you got a little bit of take up, like a little bit of pressure on there, just a little bit. Click, and then click. And there's a little bit of post travel. And based on I've done some with my mouse switches. We may or may not have had videos about me replacing them in mice. I mean, I've done that for a long time, but it wasn't until, well, fairly recently actually, that non-Omron switches like became at all viable. And I've actually been replacing with Kale, because they were the ones how to figure out how to fix double clicking, and it's with like a crosshatch pattern. I think 4.0s was when those came out. I first said, because those are super chunky. I actually prefer 2.0s personally, and those were the 2.0s are the first ones that have the crosshatch pattern to prevent the double clicking. So that's what I put in the mice that I really like. Or when I had I dropped my Rival 3 wireless like this, and it hit something on the ground and actually punched the stock switches, like the thing in, so it wouldn't click or unclick. I replaced those with 2.0s because that's what I was going to use day in and day out, and I just the 2.0 is kind of like the classic Omron switch. It still clips on the sides, so it's technically less stable than the one that clips on the ends, because you're on the skinny part instead of the long part. Like the internals are a bit different. You can see that, but the big thing was, hey, might as well get rid of the double clicking. I just ordered a bunch of all of them when off of AliExpress. Side by side, these feel very similar. If you're a person that likes an EC2, I'd be very doubtful if you like an E1. You can definitely feel the Outset influence though in the E1. And I don't mind that it's there. I had no problem with the Outset. The ass was a bit big for me. A little bit of a bulge in this region on the Outset. This basically eliminates that. Sadly, what this means, because I didn't know this was out when I bought this. Now when I reviewed this, I did. Now, I still believe that this hyperspeed I want as part of my collection because it is better than the V3 Pro. Because the V3 Pro's shape is just fucking weird. Makes no sense. To me, like, it's not a Death Adder. Now, for me, like I said, though, for me personally, where I lose this, and I did try to game with this on Friday. That's when I game, watch the LAN show, play some Call of Duty. It's really the only day in the week that I find time to game. That's why I only play one game. That's why I just kind of can, like, unless Call of Duty ends up being shit, which has happened here and there, then I'll switch to something else. Like, some of the seasons have been really bad in Call of Duty, and mostly, for the most part, this last season I've only been playing because I want to get the new BAR. It's like an updated BAR, and also the new Black Ops is coming out. So I played the betas for that, actually really liked it. It was doing quite well. So I'll just switch to that when it comes out, because I did pre-order, it broke down. But that, for those wondering, it's like, oh, how, I guess when I was younger, I never understood how people could only play Call of Duty. I still don't kind of understand how people can get the same rank that I have now in like 2 months, which means they're putting in like 18-hour days of Call of Duty. And they're grown people. The main reason why I play just one game, and it doesn't have to be Call of Duty for me. I just enjoy Call of Duty because if I can play during the week, I might get a half hour. That's 3 games. I can just hop in, click some heads, hop out. You know, whereas a lot of other games, that would be an entire round, or that might not even be enough time for an entire round. It just suits my time. I have also played Call of Duty for what was it, 20 years? You know, Call of Duty 4 is when I really got into it. That was what, 2006, 18 years or whatever. So I understand the stuff. And realistically, if you want to have fun in a game, you really gotta learn. I'm not saying you have to learn it well, but like just switching when like new maps come out and I'm playing against people who've played them for a week because I just wasn't able to play, or they've even been playing them for 4 days already until I learn the new guns or new map. Hey, that's what this reminded me of. There's a light on the front of the Death Adder hyperspeed right there. See, light on the front. That light hasn't blinked yet though, so I don't know what that light is particularly for. We will find out at some point. But yeah, so that's why I basically play Call of Duty. And then if I play other games, it's usually offline, single player, on the couch playing on the home theater PC. That's why you'll see a video coming up of me. I made myself a really nice controller. And no, I don't. I used to play competitively Call of Duty, but that had to be on console back then with a controller. That was also, though, when I was playing a lot of Halo. Halo 1, 2, 3, 4, Reach. Wait, 1, 2, 3, Reach, 4. ODST. ODST. So I was still good at playing. Now, if I try to play a shooter with a controller, I'm like, why am I bothering? This is a more accurate device. But yeah, they say that they're following the dimensions very exactly, and I'm sure if you measure them, but some of the curves just seem different. The side buttons are different. Like here it's a bit sharper on this, right? It's a bit more rounded over here. That feels the same, right? But this is different. You can tell it's different. The buttons flare out more. You know, very much like the Outset. There are 2 ways to do separated buttons like this correctly. One is to have the button go out over the surface. That's how Death Adders have traditionally done it. That's how even, hey, if you even look at the front of this, like, ignore the rest of the mouse. Look at that. That's it. Look, it's like those are designed by the same people. Look at that. Because pretty much minus that nub in there, they were. And you can see here too, this is, I think it's a bit taller. Looks like to me. This is a thinner front. So it goes down a little bit lower in the front. You're like, oh, it's because the base is thicker. It's not. If you look at there's actually different plastic black on the base compared to this. So yeah, it's like the same but same but different, you know. And to be truthful, this longer butt on here that doesn't flare up is, you know, I've just gotten more used to the flared, like, or just to support the back of your palm off the mouse there. We've got a lot of mice on the table here. Here, even XE has that. The mount seems to be fairly consistent with the XE, maybe a hair more and a hair more rounded, because the XE does kind of get to a point right there. This does, but it seems just round off better, I guess would be able to explain that. Maya has that as well. This is even pointier. Look at it. But it's got that little flare on, and normally what they do when they do that too is like we were saying, that it's a little bit longer on the butt here. They tend to flare it up and round it off more, and that just gives a little better, like, support, maneuverability. You know, however you wanna talk about that. And traditionally with Zoe, like, I have the EC2A through the EC2 CW, right? I don't have the EC or the Evo. I don't know if that's the EC2 Evo or EC Evo. So when anybody has those in good condition, I don't need the box. I will just throw the box out. But like in decent enough condition, like fully operational, still works, etc., hit me up, because those are the only ones I'm missing, at least to my knowledge. If you think you have one I'm missing, hit me up also. I've talked about that. I'm missing Death Adder 1800, which is the original one. Might not be on the box, Death Adder 1800. I think it's just Death Adder. And the Black Edition 3500 I'm missing. So those I'm looking for. Any of the Steel Series Microsoft mice. Interested in those too for the collection. Because that was pre-Steel Series making their own mice. They basically just modified Microsoft mice and sold them. I've used them. I don't know that I've ever owned one. I'm trying to think. Yeah, so if you got one of those, willing to sell it for a reasonable price, let me know. Any of those, really. Just because I would like to get... also, if there's anything you want to contribute to the collection, like, hey, I haven't seen you have this mouse. I have a good condition one that doesn't have tape on it, that's not gummy, that's not broken. Hit me up. The older, the better. Because I had to sell my collection at one point. So a lot of the I think 2012. I'm gonna say like pre-2016 for, yeah, probably pre-2016, 2015 mice I don't have anymore. Some of them I've rebought, like I had to rebuy my collector's edition Death Adder that I sold off. Or sorry, not collector's edition Death Adder, collector's Boom Slang, the reissue of the Boom Slang. I had to rebuy that one. Some of the others I've rebought over time, or friends I know have had them, and they were like, "Oh, I'm getting rid of this. Do you want it?" Sure, you know. But if you guys have stuff to add, I would love to have it as a reference, as long as it's in half decent condition or clean upable to be in half decent condition, and ideally fully operational order. I've been trying to get like original boom slangs, which apparently Razer is also coming back with, and no dice. The what I mean by that, the reason why is the original one has clicks that break. They just snap off and they're forever flat. And there's really, it's a flaw in the design of the original ball mice ones. There's like, I think there's a 1000 and a 2000 DPI for those. I've tried getting a couple, and like I said, some have only had one flat click, others have had all of them, and none of them are in great operation. I think even the ones that Linus Tech Tips used in their video had at least one, if not both, clicks completely flat, so they could use it for tracking, but they couldn't use it for clicking. I might be wrong. You can correct me down below. I did offer to send them, by the way, my collector's edition boom sling for that. Found out about it too late though. But yeah, if you have some of the, like the pre 2016, 2015, 2016, I think is like my cutoff where I started going again. Like we're talking, I have some G400S because that was getting phased out. Not 400S, but Logitech S series mice, right? I'm talking pre that. Like I don't have a 400, which is like the best version of that mouse, of the MX518, 400, 400S. There's a couple versions of MX518. I have none of the original versions of MX518. Those would be amazing to have. Single button, dual button G5s. Like I used to have that whole collection. That was actually when I was reviewing and doing product, like direct product feedback to SteelSeries. I've rebought some Kanas when I saw them pop up that were brand new in box. I don't have it's not called Kana 2, I don't think. But the revised one, they swapped the color pattern, like where it was before, the black and orange got flipped, basically. With the updated sensor and stuff. I don't have any of those. I cannot find those. I don't think they sold as good as the originals. Also, they knock them off like crazy. It's like that era of the, what am I gonna say, like 06 to 12 at least. And earlier, if you got like original Diamondbacks, I do have the reissued Diamondback for those wondering, even the collector's edition one. However, they did not do it justice. Also, they never did the Copperhead. In my opinion, the Copperhead's a better mouse. Was it Lanchness or whatever? Squeers got me out of his collection because he's like, hey, I'm never gonna use this thing again. I'm like, all right, we'll add it in there. Yeah, anything like good working, like those can get a little sticky because of the soft touch. That's fine. Deal with it. Wash your hand after if you use them or borrow them. But they're just good for reference. In my opinion, Copperhead, one of the best. Better than the Diamondback. I know the Diamondback, I don't know if the name had more whatever to it, but at least for us palm users, the Copperhead was the better mouse. So if you can track any of those down, or say if you see one, hit me up on Twitter. You can try it. Definitely our Discord will also work for that, or Instagram threads. I've been more active on, oddly, since I've been suppressed on X now. Like suppressed, yeah. Supposedly I post spam or misinformation. Yeah. So I actually have more reach on threads now, even though I have far less followers. Interesting. But yeah, hit me up. Let me know. Like if you're like, oh, I see this. Like somebody's selling like a brand new Copperhead. And it's like $50. Awesome. A lot of people want like, I think some of those SteelSeries. It sucks to tell you this because I was asking like, hey, let me know if you have one. But some people were trying to sell some of those for $1,000. Now they're asking that. Do people nowadays even really know what those mice are? I don't think they do. Some other brands, like if you guys have access to them, I don't buy a lot of the Chinese, like even Lamzu. Would I buy a Lamzu if it wasn't a Fnatic? I don't know. They seem to make decent mice, but I tend to focus on the mainstream ones. VAXEE's not that mainstream, I guess. I really like their mice though. So I know, and Muskie. really likes the Lamzu mice. So a lot of times I don't need to buy them because he gets them. But yeah, especially some of like Ninjutsuo. I have their Katana Super Light, but they've made a whole bunch of other mice. Squeers has some of them. It'd be good to have some of those. And like I especially now that we're not at Geek Squad where I can get a discount, I kind of buy the mice that I'm interested in, rather than just kind of getting stuff for the collection. You know, or if it's a shape I liked in the past and I want to try it again, stuff like that. That might go a little bit out of the thing, but you know, mainly I'm buying them for me. You know, so it's less of, you know, like every Corsair mice was able to do that in the past. Either like Roccat, why'd we get the mice? Because they were sending them over. Ever since the whole thing of getting bought by Turtle Beach happened, I have not heard a peep from them and have not been able to get in contact with them. So that kind of dried up. It's kind of done that over the years. We used to get a lot of Cooler Master stuff. Respawn. Like every now and then I can reach out to them and be like, hey, you sent me in the past. I'm really interested in this one, sort of thing, and get one. Rather than previously, it was kind of like they just shipped every model. Like I said, way back, what would that have been? Like, I bought the Akari laser. I think I was sent a optical for review. And then, like, I was testing Kana pre-release. For those that were around then, that had to go back, by the way. Any of those went back. I really like SteelSeries because of their mouse pads, if you're wondering. That's how that went. They had the best selection of hard pads, and they just like stopped making them. Their hard pads now are shit. They only have one. It's the QCK hard. It nearly cut my wrist. I had to deburr it myself with my utility knife. Tuck XL, Tuck HD, you know. And they used to be like the #1 brand for hard pad. But then Razer kind of took over for that. Then they put out almost all, except the equivalent to the SP, which is that multi-layer one. That's the one that later, I believe, EVGA made 2 different versions of it. I might actually even have both versions because I really like that pad. It's a nice pad. A lot of friends were using SteelSeries, obviously on my recommendation. SteelSeries pads, back then too. Oh, the i2. That is like, why does SkyPad, now called Wallhack, even exist? Right, because of the SteelSeries i2, effectively. I should have never sold my i2. I had a white i2. Bought a buddy a pink one. He's still using it to this day. And that was from their IcePad line, which seemed like a different company. Like SteelSeries used to be like Steel Sound. The 5H, I don't know if a V2 was made by Steel Sound, but a V1 was. 4H. Original Siberia. I'm trying to remember if it was or wasn't, but that didn't even have a boom mic yet. Siberia 2s were, oh, they clapped back then. One of the few mics too that you could get away with without doing boost. That was a big thing. If you're using onboard audio, having to do with mic boost made it sound like ass. And SteelSeries was one of the few companies that had headsets with mics that you didn't have to use boost on, and you were using onboard sound. Otherwise, that's still to this day, I would argue, that's one reason if you're going to use a headset with the 3.5mm mic or a 4-pole that you might go aftermarket, is because Realtek's mic input is garbage. And I used to be, like, recently I may have released, or I did testing, definitely. I don't know if I ever released a video on it, but about what Type-C headset adapter for your phone. What was a big deciding factor in that? It was actually how good the mic sound. And you're like, oh, shouldn't it all sound the same because it's about the mic in the headphones? Yeah, no. The one's based on the Realtek, because they have Realtek ones that can go in like, they're like actually more of like a mini DAC than a USB-C dongle. Yeah, they sound like ass. And like Razer, they made like a I don't know if it was a high res, but it's like a THX certified dongle that came with like Razer Phone 1, I believe. Yeah, they made it sound good, but the mic sounded like poop compared to Samsung and Google. And I being that I use it on laptops or I use it with headsets, I actually use the mic rather than just as a DAC. It matters if the mic sounds good. And it turns out the companies that made a better like mobile phone product, rather than trying to make like a super mini DAC amp, had better mic inputs, and they had adequate outputs, right? And to me, that was more important. So yeah, I've been doing this for a while. I think there's been other brands in there too that have sent us stuff over time. Never Corsair, wouldn't expect it. I kind of on them, like Razer would never. Minlane 10 actually has me blocked on Twitter. No idea why. Just one day I was not like, I noticed like, hey, I haven't been like seeing updates. I was blocked. So that's interesting. Now, if you guys are wondering, I'm not always positive on Razer. Razer for me is a lot like Apple. They have their good products. And for the longest time, the only good product they had was the Death Adder and the Tartarus / Orb Weaver. And I would argue that the Orb Weaver wasn't even necessarily like a great product. It was like just the only decent one in that line, in that like type of product. And like people think now with like the Cobra, like, oh, they've lost their way. No, Razer has always done that. They'll have like good product lines. It's kind of like big AAA studios. They have their known good games that do well, and then they try to make other shit, and they can't. That's what happens with Razer. Corsair is even worse, mind you, on mice. All their good mice they bought from other companies. I mean, I guess you could argue a lot of companies did that. SteelSeries tried it. Crap products kind of came out of that. I wonder where that's at now. Yeah. So, little rant there. If you guys have mice and can help, or have connections, you see how I store them. I do take pictures of the packaging nowadays, but I don't end up keeping it because the most efficient way, unless you're Zoe and have this stupid stand that with the wideband antenna that causes interference in my open back headphones. Don't know how it does it, but it does. They easily fit in these soup and salad containers. I can label the front all pretty nice like that, and we can easily grab access to them. Then I usually put all the Death Adders, all the EC2s, all the whatever together. You know, all the G500s. So I have a G518 or an MX518, I think a 400S, 500S, 502, whole bunch of 502s. I have a Spectrum over there, brand new, never used. I don't have it in the collection. I might put it back, but there's almost no point because it's just the normal G502, but with RGB. And my G502, and there's like my original one that I've like worn to shit out. Like that mouse cable is one of the first really light ones. It's frayed to hell. The mouse foot in the back chips off to the point where they would give you a new set for free. It's got the chipped off mouse foot. The rubber would wear out. Mine's worn to hell. Yeah, so that's the one that should be in the collection, not the brand new one I never used because I ended up getting a Spectrum for real cheap, I think, during Black Friday or something. And later on I bought a white one. That was a Black Friday exclusive one that was actually cheaper, like special made for it. I'd rather have that one in the collection, you know? Or if you have like weird mice, like I have the Steers series Rescuer, or was it Reviver or something like that? That's a China exclusive one sold by Lenovo. Stuff like that. Or like the Death Hunter Mini later came over. Viper Mini, maybe? There's been a bunch of like, Death Hunter White Edition. Death Hunter 2000 White Edition. It's a 2000 DPI, super cheap sensor, White Edition Death Hunter. Literally shows up in the software, in the new software too, not the new one, I guess, like V4, in V3 as white. Which is super important because, or is it V2 in white? I'm trying to remember. It's like I didn't update one of my Death Hunters too. I don't remember if that's the V2 Pro or not, but because the Orb Weaver uses the V2 software, I actually had to find for a while, before the Tartarus Pro came out, I had to find Razer mice that worked in the V2 software, so I ended up sticking with wired Razer mice rather than wireless Razer mice. Don't really have to do that anymore. Like the Lancet was the first one in the new software. And they later updated Death Hunter, if I recall, the Death Hunter of that generation. So that might have been why I was running the Death Hunter 2000 White Edition, because it used the older software, I think. It was just cool to have some of those. Well, I got the Pikachu edition Death Hunter, still haven't even opened that one. It just looks so good in the packaging. Yeah, the stuff like that. Or from a lot of these, like, you know, how many brands made an EC2 that's not an EC2? We have a couple. Like, I have one that has, like, a thumb rest on it. Kind of cool, because I was really into the EC2. We tried some of those. Ended up just going back to the standard EC2. No, I just don't want gobs and gobs of mice. Like, that's why I mainly stick to the main brands, is because you can track a history of the mice. I think we got a couple glories in there. We got Fnatic. I don't have the Funk. I want the Funk MS. The MS2 or MS3. Want one of those. Myonics. Missing some of their mice. I have a Castor. I have the last version of Naus with the salt sensor and the heart thing. Back that one on Kickstarter. Why that was done. Also, I felt like those were on the wrong sides. Like they should have been flipped. Maybe I'm crazy. Trying to remember what other ones. Oh, I'm missing. I don't have an Akari Optical because I reviewed it and had to send it back. Kana, I think I have both the black and the white of the original, which was the white and black, maybe the blue LED, and then the black and orange, the orange LED. I don't have the Gen 2 stuff. Kinzu's. I might have a V2 Kinzu. I think it's a Pro. I also have the V3 Pro, which is made specifically for MSI. That's the best one if you want to get a Kinzu nowadays. You're going to have to swap the cable because the cable is so stiff, you can just move it, and because the mouse is so small and light, it just shifts the whole mouse. You're going to want to recable that one if you were to buy it. They're pretty rare and hard to get. Buy two. Because, you know, if you recable it and you want to keep an original, buy two. They're not that expensive if and when you can find them, I want to say. But like an original Kinzu, because those came in two different versions as well. Like Kinzu and Kinzu Pro or something like that. Some of those older stuff, or like the Corsair M40, M60 would be great, or even like the pre ones where before they had renamed them to the Corsair ones. They bought a company, don't remember off the top of my head right now what it is. But they had one of the few 3-button mice, and at one point it did get sort of rebranded. It might have been Raptor Gaming. I might be remembering it correctly. But like having an original M40, not an M45. The M40 was the one you wanted. Kind of the G400. You wanted you didn't want I mean, like 400S is fine, but you wanted the 400. Same thing. The M45 was fine. M40 even better. Why not the 65? Well, it's plastic. The M40s. Linus actually did a thing about this when they were clearancing them. He bought a bunch. I don't remember if it was the 40 or the 45. But the plastic ones are actually lighter, and they don't have the god-awful sniper button just in your way. It's good. It's one of the Corsair's few good shapes. Once again, though, they didn't design it, they bought it. Because it's unique. It's a unique shape, and it's actually a good shape as well. Stuff like that. That's the ones I'm looking for. Like I said, had to sell off a bunch of that. We kind of went over why that probably was. Watch some previous videos. But yeah, if you guys for a lot of that stuff, I probably won't. If you're asking something crazy, like I can cover shipping and stuff like that, or some like cheap price. But like if you're like, oh yeah, I want market rate, bro, I just wouldn't buy it from you probably unless you have like a mint one or something. And it's something I'm like, like if you were like original Death Header or Black Edition Death Header, you know, or some of these other ones that I'm highly interested in. But if it's just like one of the older mice that I just kind of don't have, if you're just not going to need it or use it, hit me up. I'd love to have it as part of the collection. Because, like, you know, to see this progress of boom, 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 boom. And a lot of times they go backwards. Like I said, I preferred the Death Header when I had full clicks all the way around. Then they're like, oh, you need 50 million main clicks. But to do that, we had to give you a shit side clicks. Comparatively. And then it just went downhill from there. And now we're on to little button clicks for the side clicks on the Death Header. You know. And the Death Header is not even a Death Header anymore. Even this, which is better than the Pro, in my opinion, is still not the classic Death Header shape. And then you know, like they thought the Mini was going to sell because a lot of people bought it out of China. And turns out when it came to the US, nobody bought it because it wasn't actually a good mouse. The people that imported it were interested just because they're like, oh, it's a cool thing to have. It's smaller. Small things are in... But they made it too small. You didn't need to make it that much smaller. This is a good amount smaller. Good amount smaller. When you made it like... Say if this was 10%. I don't even think it is. But say if this was 10%. They made it like 20% smaller. Or 30% smaller. Like, it's tiny. It's like this big. Like it's tiny. It's a small mouse when you have small hands. Much less reasonable, or not reasonable size hands, but you know, like... And this grip is on the DEX. I've decided, like, this is a fine grip to use it, but like you gotta make sure you got a big enough hand or that style grip. Because even here, I'm still resting knuckles on this. This is how I want to grip it, because that's how I grip the EC2. But no, you gotta really get up on / in there and lock it in. Let's do a 360 on the E1 for you guys. Oh, 360 no scope for the E1. And you know what? I will do the EC2 as well for this video, just so you can compare. Like I said, based on what they're saying, dimensionally, the only difference is the ass. It's shorter, rounder. Just the way we like it, right? So you can see it does roll off here. Nowhere near as much as the Death Header. So you see where the thumb locks in. You see where it goes this way on the front there, not the other way, which is the bad way. All right. So there's your side profile. You know, humps more here, not there, like on the DEX. Oh, we're down to 10% battery. Oh gosh, I was talking an hour and a half. Jeez, well, it's a combination of my... Hey, if you guys got mice, you can contribute. Appreciate it. Yeah, you'll probably get a video out of it when it comes in. Now if oodles of these mice come in, oof, we'll see. But yeah, and likely because I got the collection, there's a high likelihood I have either mice before or after to compare it to that will get out. Yeah, so you can see the slant. That's a right-hand ergonomic right there. It's got the cant with a higher click and a lower click. Like I said, I've been more on the ambi mice train. I want to say RX3, roughly, rival RX3. Then Ninjutsu Katana. That kind of was like around when that was coming out, and something. There's one they did for the wheel mouse optical. That's a banger too. Not a great quality mice. The Ninjutsu Katana is surprisingly good, but it has its issues, which is why it could never be the main. I wanted it to be. It just wasn't there fit and finish like these VAXEEs are. So went back to the old design of the scroll wheel. Still has the more clear, hard plastic, like almost like it could be an RGB LED scroll wheel. It is not because it's a VAXEE mouse. But they went back to the old design of the grip on there because apparently people thought the one on the XE Small was ugly. So then we flare out and we go back in and it rolls off. So you get a little bit of ledge here, but you don't really hit that and your fingers grip the side. That is where I have issues with the DEX, is that they have that harsh ledge right there. And unless you hold it exactly right, it feels like it's in the way. So you can kind of see here, that's where that nice curvature is. That's very similar feeling. Even though the EC2 has this seam that goes whoosh, and you don't see it here, that shape-wise, ergonomically, feels even better on here because there's no seam there. All the seams are up here. It has a very nice roll off on this side, in my opinion. And it's not fat like the Thorn. Thorn's pretty chunky, and even the Maya, which is ambi, even chunkier up there. You got a nice side here. There's our side profile. A little bit lower on this side because of the cant. Like I said, these are some quality clicks there. I don't know if they're as tight as the XES. They're in that ballpark though. Very much so. We're going back around here, and you can start seeing this where it flares up, and the back is just a little shorter, not as pointy on the E1 versus the EC2. Yes, and despite this being called the E1, it is not an EC1, right, which is the bigger mouse. It is comparable to EC2, and you can see the black back here once again where it's raised up, kind of like all these guys to some extent, except for the EC2, right? Even these over here. So now for context, let's take the EC2. This is the CW, which is post, the people who started VAXEE being involved. So, just it comes out, you can see the shape difference here, but like, it's a wider curve. This is like more of a and if there wasn't like the different design of the clicks, check out the video earlier. You will see that I kind of showed you. It's kind of here forward. If I hold those two together, they look identical, even though like underneath it's different. Right? If you hold it like that, they look bang on. So it's just that these are this is part of that older style design that Zoe, which is now owned by BenQ, still hasn't updated. Everybody else has. Literally everybody else. So the Death Header was one of the mice like that. MX518 kind of started that trend. Like that was the updated trend, right? So despite this looking like an Outset AX, it you know, it's got better build because of all the stuff VAXEE's learned. But it once you start chopping it down into its individual chunks, it is very much the same chip, right? If you just look at them, this looks closer to the Outset AX than it does the EC2. I thought the blue one looked a lot like the Thorn. In hand, the only difference is realistically the butt, and I guess the side buttons and some of the curvature by the side buttons a little bit. Height of the scroll wheel sticks up a little bit more. Yeah, I prefer the scroll wheel too versus the. This is still like a lot of their older ones. And I would take the crunchy clicky, and a lot of the early VAXEE mice were like that. But they found they could get the tactility without the, like, ratchet noise, basically. And it does still make scroll noise. That's enough, though. You don't need the... You know, and on this one, the ass is hollow, so it really pipes up there. So here you go. Those wondering, we're probably going to go through this a little bit quicker. Butt end. So same sort of swoop in on there with the angle the correct way, which is this way. Definitely, you know, start over here. And this is where, like, you gotta start looking at specific places, and it's just like, because the build quality on the E1 is better and just different, it kind of throws off that they are actually in, like, what at least they deemed to be the correct areas and places. They're the same dimensions, same curves. You know, same sort of, you know. And if you notice, that's right where it doesn't split till after that. Zoe really needs to update these, but they made the U2. Not a great mouse, in my opinion. Bought that. Why'd you buy that then? Well, because Zoe has had interesting mice in the past, but I don't know, that isn't one for me. You got the little red thing for the antenna. Oh, the stupid recessed USB-C port that's smaller than the standard USB-C port. So you got to use a Zoe cable, or I have like these extensions that make them even skinnier than Apple cables. An Apple cable, for those wondering, is skinny enough to fit in there, but an Apple cable is thinner than the standard, like the VAXEE standard USB-C. VAXEE, however, makes theirs to the standard USB-C. So you can just take any USB-C cable you have that is a standard USB-C cable and plug in there, you know, like a Google one or a like a Club 3D that's VAXEE certified, you know, stuff like that. Apple would also work because it's skinnier, but these you have to have the Apple one, or I have, like I said, I have like these step-down adapters. It's female to USB-C for like really getting in, like down a hole. And they get even skinnier than the Apple cable. So you can still see the slant here. It might look a little bit less just based on the design of the, because you don't see the split clicks and stuff like that. This one looks a little bit more bulbous because they fixed something that they did on the Outset where this clicks over the body, right? Whereas here it clicks down, like basically that when you touch it is a seam. Right. The other thing that doesn't happen with the way that they designed this is where that split is on a lot of Roccat mice and some other brands. They have Cooler Master does this. There's fangs on the side. Like you either want it to only be on top, or you want these like protectors on the side like that. Here's a. Yeah, like VAXEE. See, there's the click doesn't go all the way over the side, or if it does, it needs to do like this E1 does, or the Death Adder does, where it goes well over the edge. What happens when you have like a little fang that sticks out is when you grip it on the side of the palm grip, this finger here will hold down this click, like if this was extended over. Look at this kitten. What are you doing, kitten? You're unsticking and sticking your paw on that adhesive. Why are you doing that? Paisley Marie. She's like, but I'm cute. Alright, back to this guy here. Spin it around. Yeah, you got the classic side that's nice. See, this seam makes this look worse than it is because also this separates as you click and it goes up, 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 up. That causes you to be able to click it all the way up here, but you don't need to be able to do this. You just don't. That's just going to cause misclicks. You got the little flare out here that you can see on the E1 a bit better. A little bump there. And then we're getting into the side profile. The other side here. And swooping back around here. There's a paisley foot. And back around the back. So if you start breaking these two down, the E1 versus the EC2, they're very similar. From a external perspective, like here, you can tell that those angles are the same. Stepping back a bit further, right? Or when you go in close, you actually got to start cutting out some of the other stuff that's informing you that it's different. Because when you focus in on it, it's not. The only real difference here, like I said, is the ass. See, it basically extends down to the desk here to the same height as the rest of the mouse. And then here it kind of lifts up, very similar to a lot of other VAXEE mice, including the Outset AX. The feet are very much Outset AX. I don't know why I was saying NP01 before. I'm just probably lack of sleep since I started this video at 2 a.m. and I've been having a lot of crazy stuff for work. The other difference would be the side buttons, and I don't know if they're an improvement or not. The VAXEE one, or sorry, the Zoe ones, they like hinge poorly because you're actually clicking a switch that's down on the, I don't know if technically the CW, but at least all the previous wired ones. You're clicking a switch down on the PCB, so it like hinges down, which then presses a foot into the PCB on the bottom, rather than pushing into a PCB that's here on the side that's vertical. I do like some big side clicks, right? These are big, fairly flat though. I like that these stick out a little bit more. There's a little bit of, you got a little fangs sort of, and if you look at the plastic is actually like pursed a little bit around them. Like pinched, so there's like a little bit of ledge below it. They're fine. They stick out, especially on the corners a little bit more. You can get your thumb way up in there, not click them. I'd take bigger ones, to be truthful. Not that these are bad. They're more out of the way. But Death Header. Okay, I still would take the EC2's side clicks, like the size of them, over the Death Headers. But you notice Death Header kind of angled them, so you can kind of get your thumb under it. Right? And I could see why they could do it. These are kind of angled a little, like this one's angled away, right? And this one's angled very toward. So this could have been improved upon. And I don't know if this is necessarily the improvement I was looking for. But this is big for VAXEE, for side clicks. Yeah, there's the XE. XES is even smaller. You know, NP01S, even smaller. These look to be black, and if you look at the NP01s, they actually have like this like black translucent. I don't think that looks to be like that. I did like those better, like that material. So VAXEE with these finishes though, they talk about it with the XE, or sorry, the XES, where like you got to make sure to use like thick enough plastic so it can take the color coating and stuff. They just do such a good job. And seeing this red in person, it's just very red. Kind of wish I got the blue one. If you can get the blue one, in my opinion, get the blue one. Not that this red is bad. Like, you can see where the red comes from, you know? There's the logo. Right? Right, like a very nice red. Kind of tried to match the red there. So, yeah, let me know. Were you an EC2 fan? You considering the E1? Have you considered VAXEE before? I know I shill for them. I don't actually. They don't pay me anything. I just like their products a lot, which is why I've had. Now some of the shapes I know I don't like, I don't buy future versions of, even though they update them. You know, like if I knew I didn't like it wired, why would I buy a wireless one for $140? Right, or $130 or whatever at the time. This one's $140. Did I want to try this because this used to be my main for like the Tyloo? Like until the only reason I started going away from the EC2 was wireless, basically. I just got used to so many mice had it. Death Adder V2 Pro. There were a lot of them at the time that I was using. That would have probably around the time the Aerox Rival 3, etc. Everybody's going wireless except Zoe. Zoe took so long to do it, they lost me as my main. By the time this came out, I think I was already using that, or damn near. I might be wrong, but yeah, I'm pretty damn sure I was already using that. And I'm not even particularly happy. Like, yeah, Zoe released a wireless thing. Not much else changed, and I don't particularly like how they did the feet. The docking station is kind of cool because you can have it at the end of your thing there, and you just kind of like push it up in there to charge it. Is it worth all that extra bulk and development? I don't know. Is it worth the smaller mouse feet? Back one still hasn't been updated from the old mouse. Like it's Zoe was doing the thing that Razer was doing for the longest time with Death Adder. They change as little as possible to still keep it like a viable product, and I think this has fallen behind, especially now that that guy has come. Yeah. So let me know down below your thoughts, comments, questions. Check the follow-up video. We're looking for some help locating other mice if you have spares and or connections. Appreciate it. Have a good one. Yeah, that's what happens when you don't give your kitten attention, by the way. She'll sit on your desk, but facing away from you.